Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Darien Zoning Board of Appeals. We will be hearing the applications in the order in which they are listed on the agenda. We'll ask the applicants to speak during their application. If you are speaking on an application, if you're not speaking on an application, please mute your mic so that we don't get a lot of interference. We'll give plenty of time for everyone to be heard on any of the applications they wish to be heard on. We will generally deliberate at the end of the meeting. You're more than welcome to watch the deliberations. There's no input once the public hearing is closed, so it's just the board members talking during the deliberations. If we do decide your application this evening, obviously you can watch the deliberations. If you decide not to watch the deliberations, you can always call Woody in the morning and find out what was decided. With all of that, we will start with calendar number 15, 2021, the application of Dale Guilford for 46 Cedar Gate Road. And Dan, I guess I wanted to ask you before we start if you're intending on participating in that hearing meeting item.
Yeah, so Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have been served a notice for in relation to this property as my property is adjoining to this land. So I feel I'm conflicted. I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. So I'll ask the applicant if they want to proceed with this hearing this evening, or we can continue it. There's a couple of flavors of how we can do that. We can have a hearing this evening. We could have another board member watch the Zoom of that, and we can have deliberations at a subsequent meeting. Because right now you would require the unanimous decision of the board with no ability to have a dissenting vote in order to get an approval. So is Dale Guilford on this call or Sean?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Sean Walters, landscape architect, hired as a consultant by Wagner Pools to work on this project. We would like to continue with the option of having a board member log in remotely, just so that we can get the ball rolling here on the process. We have a presentation queued up and ready for the board to review. And I'd like to share my screen if I may.
Mike, can I interject one sec? I think that's, in all due respect, I don't think that's the process we should do. I think to make it clear, without Dan here, there are only 4 sitting board members. I don't think that it makes sense to have the applicant present, have another board member watch the videotape, come back later with an opportunity to ask questions. It brings us all back later. I frankly don't think this is a complicated application. I think it could be addressed in one normal board meeting with 4 or 5 board members, and it's the applicant's choice as to whether to proceed with 4. But if the applicant wants 5, I suggest that we defer the entire application until there are 5 seated board members who can all see the presentation, ask questions at the same time, hear from each other, and then deliberate on the same night. This is not a multiple, in my mind, this is not a multiple night application.
Gary, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't see any reason why this should run more than one meeting. I'm just, we weren't expecting that it wouldn't be a full board tonight. So we were certainly more than prepared to present this and walk everything out for the board's review. But if that's your advice, and it sounds like sound advice, that we postpone until the next meeting, then we are agreeable to that.
Unless you want to go through with four board members. I think Dan, as an aside, I think Dan's decision is right. I think because he received the notice, I think kind of statutorily, he is an impacted party. Even though he might be perfectly impartial, I think it might create an appealable issue. So I think Dan is right in recusing himself, and unfortunately that does leave us with only 4 people tonight. So Mike, I don't mean to step on toes, but I think the applicant has a choice of today or another day with 5, but.
It's up to the applicant. I don't have an issue with someone reviewing it, Gary, and coming back and deliberating at a subsequent hearing, but I guess it ties our hands to having all of us back.
Right. And that's proven to be difficult at times.
Yeah, if there's an eventuality, excuse me, if there's an eventuality where we can't have the same panel, it further complicates the matter. So I'll take your advice on that, Gary, and ask the applicant if they want to continue with a four-person panel or continue this and wait till we have a full 5-person panel. And I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm sure you're ready and put time and effort into this evening.
Yeah, we certainly have, but I understand, and I defer to the board's wisdom. If the board feels that it makes more sense to wait until the next meeting, so be it. We'll be in agreement with that. But
Okay,
just for
so
the record, we certainly are anxious and ready to get on with this, and we're looking forward to the presentation tonight.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is that we're going to continue this until our December hearing.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Woody, we'll go ahead and continue calendar number 15, 2021 to our December 15th hearing. Is that what I recall?
Correct.
Okay.
December 15th.
Again, Mr. Walters, I apologize for any inconvenience.
That's all right, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Good evening, CPA.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Okay, moving right along. We are at calendar number 16, 2021, the application of Howard S. Robbie on behalf of Alexander Saphir, 17 Cliff Avenue. If you're here on that application,
Yes, we're here.
okay. If you want to go ahead and present to the board, that would be great.
Okay, I'll be presenting it. I'm the architect.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Howard Robb, and I'm the architect for Jesse and Alexandra. I'm going to read a short statement, and then I'll show a few few drawings to substantiate what I'm saying, and hopefully we'll be done. The original house was built in 1930 and is set back only 33.1 feet from the right-of-way. Nearly 1/4 of the original house is actually in the front yard setback. The required setback is now 40 feet. The lot, of course, is only 12,564 square feet, where today 21,780 square feet is the minimum half-acre zone. So it's a non-conforming house on a non-conforming lot. We wish to build over and to the rear of an existing sunroom original to the house. It would necessitate a variance to the front yard setback from 40 feet to 30.5. That is to allow an addition of a master bathroom and closet. There is only one bathroom in this house and a small shoehorn powder room in a 2-foot by 5-foot closet. Current living almost demands, in quotes, a second bathroom at least, and it makes sense to make it the master bath. The proposed bathroom consists of a toilet, 2 sinks, and a shower, no tub, and 2 closets. There is nothing extravagant about what we're asking. We have examined alternatives, and building to the left side, which is what we're proposing, is the best plan. Maintaining the front wall line for the second floor also makes more sense from an architectural point of view. It's a federal-styled house, and setting the second floor bathroom back would be a disservice to the design integrity of the front facade. We're not asking to build further to the front, but to increase the height of the 1-story wing to 2 stories. It's considered increasing the degree of nonconformity. The floor area involved is approximately 44 square feet. It's 8 feet wide by 5.5 feet deep, is the requested variance. The house would still be in keeping with the neighborhood, as what we are asking is relatively small and is integrated into the current federal style design. The situation was not created by any owner, but by a change in the zoning and the institution of setback lines. Remember, this was built in 1930. There would be no detrimental effect to the environment as the waiver requested is over an existing room. The proposed addition is minimal in size to satisfy the requirements of today's lifestyle and is not overwhelming. And again, we have examined alternatives, and there is no other effective means to bring this house into the 20th and 21st century style of living. Now, I have a few drawings that I'm just going to hold up to the screen. And this is the second floor, and highlighted in marker is the requested variance. What we are trying to accomplish here is a second bathroom in the house, and to do that we have to eliminate closets and we have to replace them. The front elevation, again highlighted in yellow, is that area that we're requesting a variance for. It is sitting on top of an existing sunroom, original to the house. And from the side, again highlighted in yellow, is the area that we are requesting the variance for. Again, it's a small portion of the house. And for those who haven't been there, I'm sure you've all been there, but that is the existing house. It's a very nice, but it's a modest house. Even with 2,600 square feet, 400 of it is in the attic. And, it's, for Darien, I think it's quite small. And I'm finished. I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to be clear, you're not asking for a side yard variance. You're only asking for a front yard variance, and that variance is for the portion of the second story. So the entirety of the two-story addition is within the setbacks. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We satisfy side yard, rear yard, and except for that small portion in the front, we satisfy front yard setbacks.
Okay, and this is a question that Woody loves to hear me ask because it makes his life miserable. What portion of the the existing first floor structure will remain, and have you had that determined to be capable of bearing a second story?
Oh, okay. I actually have a drawing of the first floor. This is the current first floor, and you see the sunroom is right here. Oh, right here. This is an addition to the back of the sunroom. I got that right? I'm looking at it backwards in the screen. Everything about the house is substantial. It has a cast-in-place concrete foundation, platform framing, the existing structure, including the ceiling, can remain in place. We don't need to, except for removing the roof, we don't need to do anything else to the existing structure.
And it's substantial enough to support a second story?
Definitely, most definitely.
Okay, Woody, do we need anything further on that? I mean, it sounds like it's just the roof that's being removed, so.
Yeah, no, that's very clear. Good.
Anyone else on the board have any questions? I'll start with Dan, and I'll move sort of across my screen as I see you. So I've got Dan and then Barb.
So I think my first question is, you mentioned it's a non-conforming house. You also mentioned it's a non-conforming plot. So what's the current non-conformity? And are you increasing it or decreasing it by making this addition, and how much?
Okay. The nonconformity of the house is its position on the property. The nonconformity of the lot is its size. It's about 8,000 square feet short of what is currently required. We are building on top of an existing nonconforming wing to the left of the main house, but the wing is original to the house when it was built in 1930. So we are building on top of it, and that's the 5.5 feet that we're asking for. I don't know if I've answered your question.
No, I'm still trying to ascertain, is it going to make the house more non-conforming than what it is right now?
Oh, okay. As I said earlier, it is known as increasing the degree of nonconformity. So yes, it is increasing the bulk of the house, and the bulk of the house would still be at the 5.5. We aren't increasing lot coverage in the front. We are just building over an existing non-conforming structure.
So you are increasing the volume, overall volume in the house.
Oh yes.
And on a relative basis, what % of the volume is increasing because of this?
Well, the variance we're asking for is for 44 square feet. So the total volume of that would be approximately 440 cubic feet, figuring 10 feet high to the point of where the roof intersects. So as far as the percentage, it's 44 square feet out of 2,600. It's probably less than 2% increase in the volume of the house.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Less
Okay.
than, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Barb, any questions? Oh, sorry, Dan, were you done?
No,
First,
my second question was, do you have any feedback from the neighbors? Have you received any?
I have not received any. I don't know if Alexandra has or if Jesse has.
We have not received any feedback.
I mean, we had them over for dinner and they're excited that we're adding to the value of the property, but like that's,
Yeah.
anecdotal. It's not no written feedback.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's all from my side, Mike.
Thanks, Dan. Barb?
Howard, can you tell us what the exact coverage is on the lot, what it was and what it will be? Is it under 20%?
Yep.
Yeah. It's going from
well, first of all,
10%.
Was it, Mike, 14%?
It's going to 11%. I checked that on the survey.
it's going from 10.1 to 11. And the maximum allowable is 20. So we're only halfway.
I'm going to say something you guys aren't going to like. My first house when I moved to town was exactly like this house. It had 1.5 bathrooms, and we lived there with 4 kids for 9 years. And I remember so many times wanting to add the bathroom and change the house, and ultimately we ended up moving. I'm completely sympathetic to what you're dealing with. I'm going to look at this from a hardship standpoint, but I love these homes the way they are. It gives you a chance to get in this town and get started with something small. So I don't think what you're asking for is a big ask, but this is kind of a tough one for me because I like it the way it is. Okay. I'm done.
Gary, you're up.
Oh, okay. Well, again, we're trying to keep the style and flavor of the existing house in the addition. It's a federal style house. We want to maintain that, even though we're adding the second floor on the front. And actually, we're asking for the 5.5 because we theoretically we could just build it back 5.5, but then there's no point in doing that because it doesn't satisfy the program requirements of the bathroom and closets.
Well, that's actually
I
a
do
good
understand.
from a minimal adjustment standpoint. There are other places you can put this addition, but does it make sense? This is kind of a minimal adjustment in that you're going over something existing. So I like that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Gary?
Look, we've seen applications like this before. And I think it's a roughly 8 by 5 second floor over that sunroom. I agree that the structure being put in its location before the zoning regs made it non-conforming, as is the lot. Look, I think it's in some degree, Barb, I agree with you, but if you look at the entry price into Darien and the cost of this type of house, I don't think we can say, well, this is an entry price and people should move to a larger house. I do have one kind of question, somewhat out of curiosity, since this house was purchased relatively recently. Did anyone make any comment to you? This is really out of curiosity. when you bought the house of your ability to put that bathroom there? Did anyone say, hey, gee, you could just do this easily? Because I don't like when that happens, when people are led a bit astray about the process.
Yeah, so I would say that to answer your question simply, no. We looked at the possibility of that there were plans to potentially add bathrooms to, for example, the attic, but it's not to code, and it's not like it wouldn't. You can't fit it in, and so it was kind of a situation where, we're certainly hopeful that we can get this done, but it wasn't. No one said like, oh, don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I think years ago, Barb, no disrespect, agents or lawyers might say, this is a great house. You can easily add a bathroom. Don't worry about zoning.
I would never say that. I have
I
never.
didn't say you would have said that, Barb.
No, I'm kidding. No, but that's a really good point. I mean, agents say that all the time to get the deal done, and then you go find out that there's just so many hoops to jump through. But well done. That's a great answer.
I do want to commend you for presenting what I think personally, and we'll hear more in deliberation, I think is a modest request, given the lot, the house, and how you'd like to live in it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Yep.
Jeffrey, anything from you?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. Number one, I want Barb to understand that Gary did not just throw agents under the bus. He threw himself under the bus because he's a lawyer. Okay, so let's.
Not a real estate lawyer, Mike. I mean, Jeff. Sorry.
That guy. I hear you. And I'm sorry, I might have misheard. How big is the existing house?
The total square footage, all 3 floors, that's including the attic, is 2,600.
26. Okay, got it. Never mind. And last question is, what was for dinner? Because I missed that.
Sorry, meatballs and pasta.
You weren't invited, Jeff.
On the
Next time.
I mean, I'd say it depends how you vote, but I can't say that. So just come over anyway.
And,
Well, thank you very much.
Gary, are you done taking shots at me for the evening? I mean, the first application, and you're slamming real estate lawyers. I don't know what to think.
I've been trying to get off the board for years, Mike.
I mean, the way you chaired the beginning of this meeting, I don't know. Okay.
Hey, at least it wasn't me.
Anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Hearing and seeing no one, we'll go ahead. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, sorry, Woody, did you have anything further? I didn't ask you. No? Okay. All right. With nothing further, we'll go ahead and close the application. Thank you very much. Oh, there's a sweetheart. Yeah. Now you put the heartstrings. It's bringing out the big guns. All right. So we'll move on to 1720. Is that a typo, Woody? This says it's 17/20/20 on my packet, but I'm sure that it's 17/20/21. A rare typo from Robert Woodside. That's interesting. This is the application of Gregory Cava on behalf of David Joyella, and I actually know how to pronounce that name. What do you?
One of the few in the world that can pronounce it. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing great. How are you? So if you were here on that application, please step forward and let us know what's going on.
Hi.
Good evening. Attorney Greg Cava here. I represent David Joyella, and there's David on the screen as well. And we're here for this application. It is 17-2021. Is there some way I can share my screen? Because I think it'll go a lot faster if I can. It doesn't seem to want to do it.
Yeah, is Fred? Are you running that?
Fred here.
That's me. I think I already put the gentleman here at the lawyer at the as a presenter. So all you have to do is click on your screen. There should be an option.
Okay. One
Looks like
second
it's
here.
on the bottom next to camera.
Okay, I'm now, I think I found the area where it needed to have this done. So in any event, let me try sharing my screen. Oh no, I would have to rejoin the meeting.
It shouldn't be that complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. It won't. It doesn't want to allow the screen to share, and it said I needed to change some setting, which I did. Now it wants me to restart it in order to.
Okay, you want to just run through that process real quick?
This is Fred Dunite. In some very limited circumstances, that may be the case where there's a setting change that needs to occur for the applicant to share their screen. So in this particular case, if Mr. Cavan needs to share his screen, he would need to restart.
Nope, I've done it.
Rejoin the meeting to do that. As of now, we cannot see your screen.
Yeah, I know. For some reason I did it and it allowed it, but now it's giving me all kinds of grief. Again, it doesn't seem to want to. I've added go to meeting.
I think I have the presentation, Greg. I'm going to leave the meeting and try to rejoin. It says the same thing on mine. I think I could share it and then just walk through it. Hold on one second.
There we go. Can you say that? Can see that now?
You got it faster than I did. I see it.
Okay, I'm sorry for that technical glitch. There we go. So can everyone see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, I'll try to be as brief as possible tonight, and I'm very sorry that it's taken me too long to get this thing set up. In any event, this is Mr. Joyez's property, and as you can see, it's an irregularly shaped rear lot. The house, can you see my pointer?
Yep.
Okay. The house down here, the front door of the house basically faces near Water Lane. The driveway is along here. It's on the property of Schmidt Works, on the Schmidt's property, and that's 82 near water. And it comes up here and then enters the property right here. And then you have the driveways in the house and whatnot. This is the backyard here. And the legal front yard of the lot, however, is on pasture lane. And because this is a rear lot, that front yard, instead of being 50 feet deep, needs to be 90 feet deep. There's a 40-foot add-on. And I'm somewhat familiar with that because actually I wrote the regulation when I served with Ed Schmidt on the Planning and Zoning Commission in Darien back in the 1980s and early 1990s. We rewrote this regulation, and the point of the regulation of an enhanced front yard for a rear lot was to make certain that there was less of an impact on the neighbors by that lot by having the extra setback. And that was designed so that the neighbors around it would be buffered a little better from the lot. And that's why we did it that way. Now, when you look at this lot, you look at the areas, and I think you saw the reasons why we need this generator. It's a very difficult situation when the power goes out with that septage flowing back into the house. So if you look at the areas of the lot that are not boxed out by zoning setbacks, you're left with these green areas that are shown on this map. And there's a problem though with a large part of these green areas. This one up here has two problems. Number one, it's very close to the garage, and the garage has a bedroom over it. There's a bedroom that actually extends over the garage, and there are windows all along the various sides of the house. The problem is if you tried to put a generator here, it'd be too close to the house. We had an article that I submitted as part of the original application attached to Schedule K or Item K, and that indicated that a 25-foot setback is what is desired. And even though generators say they could be put closer, the CDC and the Standards Committee and the other government agencies that weighed in on this think that that's a mistake, and they should be located 25 feet away. So that's the first problem. The other
Sorry
problem
to interrupt, but the standard we apply is our building code, and the building code says, I think, 10 feet from a window. So,
well, building code says that, but
right.
the information we've been able to
but I have to tell you, that's personally, I'm bound by the building code and zoning regs more than what you're suggesting. I mean, that's every generator in your town has to abide by the building codes, and the building code set the minimum. If the building code should be changed, that's a different process.
Yep, we also have windows
that,
in.
but
including windows. It's 10 feet from a window.
Yep.
I understand that, but that may or may not be a good idea, but if that's your building code, that's your building code. The other problem this area has is this area serves as a snow shelf when the driveway is plowed. There are limited areas to put snow. There's a little bit of an area here, there's an area here, but you can't put it along here, not the least of which is because there's a pedestrian easement that goes through here. It was actually an easement that was reserved by the Schmidts when they, so that Ed liked to walk down to the water. And so that there's an ancient easement that goes through here. And so that's an easement. We can't dump snow in there. So one of the few places you can put it is here. And Mr. Joel will tell you that it's his experience that the snow is frequently piled there to heights of 3 to 5 feet. The other problem with this area, in addition to the snow burying the generator, is that when this is plowed, occasionally they have noticed that there are trucks that make deliveries, whether it be UPS or another delivery service, and those large trucks sometimes lose control and slide into this area. They've pulled up all of the paving stones and everything like that, and I would really like to not have a situation in which they were sliding into a generator or the stub of the tank that comes up above the ground.
Can you protect that area with bollards?
Well, I don't know if you could. I suppose you could, but the problem with the bollards, I think, is that they may or may not be sufficient to stop the truck. We hope they would be, but the problem is you still have to pile snow there, and so it'd be piled on top of the generators. It's really not a good place to put the generator. And also, the further in you put it, the closer you get to the building, and then you get to the point where 10 feet is somewhere right around here. If I'm not mistaken, it would foreclose almost the entirety of this peninsula. The other area over here is problematic because that area
it's too close to the window.
That area has a lot of windows, and these are bedrooms upstairs, and so these are a problematic location.
Is it more than 10 feet or not?
Well, I think this is.
I measured
not a lot more than 10 feet. You'd be limiting it to putting it right here.
Well, that's not within the setback though. The 10 feet doesn't apply. That area doesn't fit because it's closer to 10 feet.
Well, yeah, you've got the other problem you've got there is the setback is right here. So you can't really get out to where I was pointing. It's really just this area is around the building. And I would suggest that 10 feet the 10-foot set off doesn't leave you more than just a tiny little corner of this area for being too close to the building. So that's another location that's just not viable. So now you get to the backyard, and this area here is a potential viable location, except that it's got problems both with the quality of the soil, the topography, and the proximity to the building and the enclosed porch. It's our position that the only portions of this that are safe from both the generators and the underground stormwater detention system under here, there's a Caltech system under here, you really have to get considerably away from the building to get there. I've got a map that actually shows that system. And that system is taking the water from this section of the roof. It's running through pipes that run out here, plastic pipes that run under the ground and run to these plastic Caltech units. This was originally when my client bought this house, there's an underground system that was concrete. It failed. It no longer properly removed water from this roof, and it was a problem. David can tell you more about it, but I think that it may have been undersized or simply not installed correctly. But the net effect is it didn't work, and he had to install this system. And so what happens is that water comes off the roof, runs into the system, and this system slowly releases it. And what it does is it causes the areas of the property that are down gradient from it to be wetter longer than they otherwise would be, because they're constantly taking water from the system as it slowly releases the runoff from the roof. And so this area of the property is fairly wet. It's fairly slick frequently. The difficulty is that the setback would only allow this area right here to have anything in it. And I don't think it would be advisable. We're advised that we shouldn't really be putting a concrete pad with a generator on it on top of what's an area that's taking water drainage here. You can't put it over here. You can't put it over the pipes, and you really don't want to put it within the area that this is draining off the site. So these areas are not particularly right.
And you interrupted. They're possible, right? You want a generator. You're asking to put it practically on the property line, but yet you've got this entire yard where you could put it. All you're burying with the generator is you're burying a gas line 18 inches deep. You're burying an electrical line 12 to 18 inches deep. And both of those, you only need to trench less than 18 inches to get to it. And then you put a concrete pad. You're trying to put a generator on the edge of a property where you have a significant building envelope and that portion of the house that you were just highlighting. And you haven't, to be quite honest, hold on. To be quite honest, you haven't showed me anything as to why this property is a hardship to begin with. It's a large piece of property with a large conforming house on it, with a large buildable area available to you. Where's the hardship?
If I might finish, I'll get there. I'm trying to just give you a general idea of what's on the site and what the issues are that create problems. In the staff report, there was this picture of the backyard, which most of the land in this picture, almost all the land that you see in this picture, is the problem with this is this is not within the area that you can build. This is all within the setbacks. If you look at that area, you see that it is sloped. And this area is not particularly amenable to it because of the Cultex systems, and you're forced to put it in the steeper areas of the site, and you're forced to allow a good bit of that pad. It's not going to be a pad, it's going to be a big concrete box that would have to sit out of the ground in order to deal with the
Isn't that just a visual impediment?
Not a visual impediment.
Isn't it?
I wouldn't want the kids that play in that house to go sliding down that hill right into that generator pad.
But can't we acknowledge that you want to put it at a place that it's visually less impactful?
Well, it's not just visually less impactful. Let me explain something. If you were to put it in a conforming location, it's going to be seen by every neighbor over here, including, depending on where in this area you put it, the Schmidt house here as well. These people are all going to look at it because it's going to be visible to them. The point of the problem here, and one of the reasons for hardship, is the point of that regulation. Let me get back to the site map. The point of that regulation was to try to minimize the impact on neighbors of development on the site, and this defeats the purpose of the regulation. It defeats it because it puts it where it doesn't minimize the impact. Everybody sees it. Instead of putting it in this location, which is not right next to the property line, it's a good distance from the property line, and it's located in an area that is completely screened from view of everyone. It's screened on one side by a line of arborvitae, it's screened on another by a stone wall. Some rocks have fallen off, those are going to be put back. And the net effect is you have it where the people on the west, on the south, and the east are not going to see this because of the vegetation. The property on the north is not going to see it because of the stone wall, because the generator is not as tall as the stone wall. And the net effect is, we've measured it, and this is in the original application. And so the net effect is it's going to actually do more to support the regulation's purpose, which is to minimize the impact of development, than just simply saying, well, it's closer than 90 feet. The 90 feet must be there for a reason, and indeed it is. The 90 feet is there entirely to try to minimize the impact. And So,
Can I interrupt you for a second, Attorney
yeah,
Kava? Okay, so, Gary, just to be clear, the easement area that is dotted on your map is part of this parcel.
Right,
Okay,
but it
so
is an easement. Right.
well, it's a
We're
conservation.
working on that, but
so
I
you're
still
not,
don't see I still don't see the hardship that's unique to this property.
Gary, please let me finish.
Yeah,
Okay. It's not on the property line. I think that this is a health and safety issue. So we don't have to find a hardship, because if the applicant's septic is backing up into their house because they don't have power, we've created a hazardous condition for those same kids who are sledding down the hill because they've got poop in their basement. A lot of these systems now are designed to have pump up, and they need a generator as a failsafe for that system. I would ask why the generator can't be moved more to the west, maybe in line with the HVAC system that's there. So you've got things that are making similar amounts of noise in similar locations. And I'd ask if you did explore that possibility.
We looked at that. The HVAC is outside a lower level bedroom window. There's a lot of windows. And then there's the kids' bedroom. So you could go 10 feet from those windows, but then it starts to put you into the tree line. So then the electrician and the excavator suggested this other location because it could bury the tank in the yard and still get a clean shot to the corner of the house. Our electric panel comes in this corner, which also makes all the other locations that we talked about earlier, they just didn't see a good way to get any electric or propane to the corner. So it really would have to be in this side of the house somewhere. So that's how we came up with it. Now, I spoke to all the neighbors. I'm very friendly with the neighbors on all sides. And they've asked me, they don't want to see it in the yard. And that was one of the contingencies here of asking for this variance. Like the Mays are behind me, the Tweedies are on this side. If I put this somewhere in the back, it is very wet and very steep. So it's going to have to be on a platform. The Coltex that we added, unfortunately, didn't fully mitigate the water system. They didn't do what I had 100% hope. So that area in the back is very wet and muddy, unfortunately, when it rains. So if we put it in the middle of that area, all these sight lines will see it. Now, I have notes from all these guys that say, look, you have a big piece of property. We don't know that there was a 90-foot setback. We'd prefer it where we do not see it because they're developing back here, and the Keoghs are in the back, Tweedies are on the side, the Mays are over here. They would all see it as they come up to their house. So they have said we would prefer it behind the trees. The one neighbor, Georgia, who I share the driveway with, has also agreed to it. She said, yeah, why have it in the back? We have a wet situation, you have kids. She said the only stipulation she would have is that if the system failed and would be replaced, that we would replace it with a system that generates the same amount or less decibel level of noise. And I said, that's fine, that's no problem. I spec'd a QS series, which is more expensive, but very quiet. So I explained to the neighbors, no matter where this is, the noise level is not going to be an issue. So Georgia in the front, who you think would have the most issue with it, has sent us a note, said I'm 100% fine, and she would prefer it back there too. So, it seems like if we're forced to put it in the backyard somewhere, it's not ideal for the muddy and drainage reasons. Plus, all these other lines of sight are
impacted.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've heard enough on this application. I'm gonna just check with the board members to see if they have any questions. So Dan, do you have any questions?
You have so from there is going to be, I understand there is going to be a retention system, right?
That's already
And
installed.
the stormwater.
That's currently installed in that upper backyard area that I did two years ago, because the existing system was a concrete system and it had failed. So my backyard was it was sloped to begin with. The water was blowing out the slope. This system, which is this longitudinal series of Coltex, is currently under the ground, and it's a little closer to the surface than we would have liked because they had to put it on top of the existing concrete system that was lower down. And in doing so, to conform with the permit to do this, it's graded very steeply because they didn't want to approve a lot of fill coming in. So rather than smoothing it out, what we in effect did is put the Coltex in this area, but then it drops off like this to get down to the backyard because we wanted to comply with the amount of fill that we were told we could bring in.
Okay, so it has already taken place. So there is nothing new that you're going to do.
No, that's correct.
Okay,
Right.
Mike, I have no questions anymore.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Barb?
Just quickly, I'm looking through the specs of the generator because depending on the size of the generator, the output of the generator, they can be more quiet. Certainly the way they're installed can
Yep.
contribute to the reduction in noise level. So can you just quickly explain to me how you picked the generator? And because it seems like you're actually incurring quite a bit of expense to move this thing to the other side of the yard when it's not going to be kicking on. It's not on all the time. You understand when it's running kind of quietly in the background, there's some vibration, but tell me your choice of generator.
Sure. It's a Generac 27 QS series. QS stands for quiet series. So it's about 5,000 more than a normal 27 kilowatt generator. It's not oversized, and I didn't go with one that's going to support everything on the house. I wanted to go with one that would support the things I'm trying to keep going, which is the sewage ejector pumps. And it will also support maybe the heat in the winter and one zone of AC, but we have 400 amp service. A 44 kilowatt generator would have handled all that, but it would have been bigger and noisier. So I picked one that was the quietest in this 27 kilowatt range. And I think it generates 68 decibels of noise, which is approximately the same loudness of a car idling. And then they actually do have higher level ones that do a little bit lower on the noise, but they're much larger units.
Okay.
The other thing, don't forget, is that sound is such that that maybe 60 or maybe that number of decibels at the generator, but by the time you get to the property lines for the closer houses, the Schmidt and this house over here, the noise gets attenuated both by the vegetation and by the distance. So it's probably not really much above daytime background noise by the time.
I mean, truthfully, when I spec'd the system, including the unit and the location, I didn't know that there was a 90-foot setback. I didn't realize that was my front yard. I come into the house through the driveway and I come into the door through the front, and I thought there was a 40-foot setback. That location is 55 feet or something like that to the property line. So when I measured it with the electrician and the company that would do the installation, I mean, we didn't know this until we went to apply for the permit. And then it turns out my side yard is my front yard because when this lot was subdivided, it was supposed to be a pasture land address, but I'm not sure. That must have been in the 60s or 70s. And for whatever reason, they never ended up building that. So I originally figured this whole thing out, including asking the neighbors where they would want it because the trees would screen it, thinking that, not knowing that that was a 90-foot setback. I thought it was actually conforming because I didn't know that the front was the side.
I think you've done a lot of work on this. I think there are locations you can put this that'll cost you a lot less, but I get your argument. So thank you.
Thanks.
Gary, any questions?
No, so my only question is, do you feel like you had an opportunity to present everything we need to know on this application?
There's just a couple things I want to mention. One is there was a mistake in the application where I indicated that the driveway for the Joya property comes over the 84. It comes over 84 near water. It's actually 82, so that's a mistake that we made. And the reason is because 82 is contiguous to 86, not 84. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the way it is. The other mistake is I indicated in my materials for the meeting that the septic system was located down gradient of the pipe that goes into it. Actually meant to say up gradient because it needs an ejector pump in order for that to go in there. And that's the problem, because when the power goes out, the ejector pump stops running. When it stops running, the tank fills up. When the tank fills up, it flows back into the house.
So what's been the situation of the last, so this house was built years ago?
I think it was built 7
years ago. What was the solution in the past?
So the solution, when I first bought the house, I said, what's this watermark in the basement. There's a lower level living area on the wall. And they didn't, everyone said, oh, I don't know, that was there. I think it might have been from the rain. No, I just kind of should have looked into it more. There was no solution. This has been happening for a while. So now with the heavier rains, it's happened to us more frequently, and it's really terrible. I mean, it's not a good situation. So to answer your question, I think this has been happening since the house was built, and I just now I'm experiencing living in it.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. There were two things that I submitted in addition to the application, and those came in apparently too late to go into your package. One of them was a detailed set of responses to the town's questions and comments, to the staff's questions and comments, and I think those need to be reviewed. Also, this presentation has some additional explanations of the hardship, of precisely what constitutes the hardship. And I think it's important that you're aware of that, because there is a good case for hardship under this application. And again, it goes to the issue of that irregular lot shape forcing the house, and the soil conditions forcing the house into the west side of the property, which leaves you basically with a wet lawn to deal with. And as David has told you, that's a tricky area to negotiate because of how wet it is. And the soils and slopes in the only conforming area of the site make that generator pad potentially dangerous, otherwise unsatisfactory. The configuration of this lot is somewhat unique. It's not common in the neighborhood. The condition of the soils requiring that system, the Coltex system, and we don't want to be downgrading into that, installing things into the soil. This is not a self-created hardship. He did not just come in and put in this Coltex system, and it needed to be replacing what was there because the place was a mess. And even then, it's not fully successful. And the topography is in part, it wasn't created by him because he wanted to create it. It wasn't just a whim to create a steeper yard. He'd rather have a flatter yard, but there were complaints about prior filling by other owners. There were complaints about the Planning and Zoning Commission wanting to not leave flat areas, and they wanted it more sloped. And that would create a natural downhill pitch. And so this topography was generated, dictated not by someone's whim. It was dictated by the requirements of the regulation and the concerns of the Planning and Zoning Commission when this was done. So I believe this to be a pretty clear case of the strict application of these regulations causing the hardship and defeating the very purpose for which Ed and I worked so hard on that regulation, which was to minimize the impact on abutting lots. And every abutting lot, I think there was one lot owner we may not have reached, but they're on the other side of pasture. But the benefit that they achieve by this really gives you kind of a win-win situation, which is that the applicant doesn't have to put up with the septage flowing into his house. The applicant doesn't have to achieve this at the expense of his neighbors' concerns. And it's a win for the neighbors who don't have to look at a generator or probably hear it. My guess is if they hear a generator, it's going to be somebody else's generator. It's not going to be this one. And so that's why we're really asking if you would, if you really feel you need to put this off to next meeting because you want to review all of this, I'm happy for you to do that. I just would like you to keep the public hearing open if you're going to put it over to the next hearing, because there may be additional comments that come in that we may want to respond to. But other than that, we would very much appreciate your granting these variances, and we very much thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, everybody.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Jeff, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Not that it really matters, but the bedroom over the garage, is it occupied?
Yeah, well, I'm sitting in it now. It's my office, and it's where our guests stay when they come to visit.
Understood. And Mr. Cava, you know, I know Ed very well, been here all my life, but I assume that he does not object to this application.
I'm sorry, who?
Ed.
Mr. Schmidt.
No, Ed passed away.
Yeah, Ed passed away. He's no longer with us. But his wife, Georgia, who used to sit on your zoning board of appeals, she was on the ZBA for many years.
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
Georgia.
So Mrs. Schmidt has no problem?
No, she's fine.
Whatsoever, providing you make a condition of approval that the generator will be, we put a condition there about the generator being, if it's replaced, to be replaced with one that is of the same or better sound quietness, characteristics. And we were eager to agree to that because we picked the generator that was quiet to begin with, so it wouldn't be offensive to anyone.
Understood. Thank you. And just as a matter of fact, my company does all the work for Pepsi bottling all over the country, and bollards properly installed will in fact stop any truck. So just for future reference, they work. And that's why they're in gas stations. That's why they're in front of my electric meters, and they actually work. So just so you know.
I'm absolutely comforted to hear that. Thank you.
No, I can assure you they do, sir.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Woody, anything further?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's worth noting that we don't have any neighbor comment. We really don't have anything that indicates what their opinions are. Right?
I have emails from everybody. If you would like them, Greg could send those along.
Yeah, I would be happy to send you those emails, including one from George von Schmidt that I got today.
Yeah. Well, we don't have them for our record.
Well, I can put them in the record. If you give me a few minutes, I'll upload them. Or if you want to leave the record open for the uploading of those emails, we have them from, I think, at least of the 7 parties that received notices, we have an email from, I think, 5 of them.
Yeah, Joe, I spoke to verbally, who's the furthest away, but he's in a lot up on the front of Nearwater. But I have emails from all the others.
Yeah, I'm happy to put those into the record. I could figure out how to stop sharing the screen or to go on your website. I'd be happy to upload them right now. I've got them here. I could read them.
I don't think that's necessary. That's okay. Woody, anything further? No? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay. Is there anything further from the applicant?
Nope, just thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this this hearing and move on to deliberations. Again, public is not invited to comment at this point. We continued our first application, so let's start with calendar number 16/2021. I will open the floor. I guess we'll start with we'll do the same order we've been doing: Dan, Barb, Gary, and Jeff. So we'll start with Dan.
Yeah, Mike. So, from my point of view, given the current hardship they have with the plot, with the house, and given the amount of incremental non-compliance they are going to add, given the hardship and given the size of the house, given the fact that it has only one bathroom, I'm in favor of allowing this variance.
Okay, Barb?
I like it. I think minimal adjustment. They went over something existing. It's modest. It's in keeping with the structure of the house and the style. I'm okay with it.
Okay, Gary?
I agree. I think going above that single story structure, which portion of which is in the setback, I don't think it would make sense to cut back the second floor over it. I think it's a modest plan, given the hardship of the location of the house and the size of the lot that predates regulations. So I think this is a good example of a modest request.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Jeff?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. So, yeah, I think overall, I think we do recognize that there is a hardship with the location of the existing structure and the change in the zoning regulations, pushing the front yard setback into the property. I think I think we were told it's 44 square feet, which I do believe is necessary. And I do think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. Barb, I share your sentiment that these small houses are cute and nice, but I think, you know, our town's rapidly evolving. And so I think we got to keep up with the times, but I don't think that really sways my decision one way or another. What I will do, Woody, is add a stipulation. They represented that the first floor structure would remain intact. So the only stipulation would be that that first floor structure remain intact. I believe that they said that they were just removing the roof. If they need to do further, any work further than that as part of the building when they get involved in it, they'll have to come back and see us. You know, one of the things we struggle with is if you literally have to tear down the first floor, then why aren't you relocating it in a conforming location? So if they're going to maintain that first floor, that's great. If not, and there's issues with that, then they're going to need to come back and see us. With that stipulation, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
One more thing, Mike, what about structural engineering? That'd all be covered through planning and zoning, right?
That'll be covered through the building department.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Okay. Give it to Barb.
Barb seconds, all in favor? Woody, that's unanimous. So the next application 17/2021, the application of Dave Joyella. I'm going to start with Gary on this because I think Gary probably.
Mike, I don't see it. I think there's so many other conforming locations. I don't see that. That's the, and I think from a precedent perspective, every other application we look at, if the applicant thinks that they can put it somewhere, I think they should. I think protecting it from snow with snow plowing with bollards makes sense. Using areas in the backyard that slope down makes sense. This is not, again, it's kind of a picture tells 1,000 words. The size of the buildable area here is quite accepting of a 2x4 generator pad within the buildable area. I don't see that the lot is burdened in a way that prevents them from putting it in a conforming location. And I think the applicant said so as much. I think, Barb, you recognize that there are other locations that might even be more economical. Not that that's allowed to be a cost. It shouldn't be an evaluation. I think there are places where this thing should go. You see them all over the town, and some are in great locations, some are, and people are moving towards putting more generators in. This house is, to your safety issue, sure, it probably improves the conditions by allowing for 24/7 power, even in the midst of storms. The house has been around for a long time in its current condition, so I don't really see it kind of the same way as you do. I just think they're conforming locations, and I don't see any. I don't think they've met their standard here.
Okay. Dan, thoughts?
No, I'm also struggling to find out the hardship here, like Gary talked about. I think the soil condition is an issue. You know, the current septic condition and what's that doing, that's also an issue. But having said that, there is so much opportunity, you know, within the plot to house this unit. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm just finding it hard to justify a hardship.
And I'll put a fine point on that a little bit. By denying the permit, the variance application, we're not going to deny their ability to put in a generator should they so choose. They will be able to put it in.
Yeah, so I see the application dramatically differently. So I do think that there's a hardship on this site. I don't know, you know, maybe you guys haven't lived on a property with a high groundwater table. I personally do.
I do.
if I walk out in my backyard during, within 4 or 5 days after a rainstorm, my feet sink into the ground. It's so wet, right? And so, I'm sympathetic to, they've got a massive. I mean, if you look at the size of that Caltech system to try and deal with the groundwater on this site, that's a massive system that was put in. Suggesting that they should then put a generator on top of it that's going to vibrate, it's going to have weight to it, it's going to compromise those Caltech systems, I think is really unfair to the applicant, and really overburdensome. I disagree, Gary, 100%. I don't see a conforming location that makes sense. We're gonna require a residential property put bollards in their front yard to avoid snow plows taking, like, that's crazy. That's not really in keeping with the spirit of what we're supposed to be doing. So I do see it's a safety issue. I also see that there are hardships on the property. I got a very good explanation as to why it couldn't be moved closer to the HVAC units. I'm actually in favor of this application. But let's hear what Barb and Jeff have to say. And my computer's about to die, so if it does, I have to call back in because I don't have.
I'm in favor of it too, actually, because I think even though there are other alternative locations where they could put this, I think they picked the toughest location. I think it's less invasive on the neighbors. I like that. I like that they're installing all kinds of additional drainage. We're all about that in this town. And it is a safety issue with the septic. So even though I agree with Gary and Dan that, yeah, are there other locations that would work? Sure. I think they picked the most difficult one. I don't mind this. I'm approving this application.
Jeff?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that I was not suggesting that bollards should be installed at a residential property. That's the first thing. Just wanted to point out that they actually work. Secondly, and lastly, I don't really have a problem with this application. I agree with Mike's comments. I had a similar property when I lived on Hickory Lane, and or similar problems when I lived on Hickory Lane, and I'm likely intended to be in favor of the application.
Okay, so we need 4 votes to pass the application. Excuse me for 1 second, just trying to get some power on my computer.
Better vote before it dies.
Let's see if that helps at all.
Did Mike freeze?
Looks like it. You might have to dial back in. Fred, any advice?
I'll text him.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. Jeff, you might have to take over.
That's okay, but I have a cold. I gotta more Kleenex for you guys.
All right, do we need a timeout so Jeff can go to the bathroom?
I just texted Mike for what it's worth.
Barb, I've been using kitchen napkins during this meeting with no soft Kleenex. Thank you so much.
Okay,
You're an
that was
improviser.
fun.
Mike, are you back in?
I think I might have gotten a text from Mike. No, never mind.
No,
Sorry.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you, can't see
Yeah.
you, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know how to make you see me. Oh, camera.
camera's off.
All.
It's okay.
Share my webcam. There I am.
I got
Okay.
you.
All right. So I guess, Dan, the question is, has the argument that there is a hardship on this site and that there's not really an appropriate alternate location swayed your decision at all?
Actually, I'm more convinced after hearing you, Barb, and Jeff. And I can reconsider the hardship, and I would ask if there is an alternate location they can find. If not, you know, I mean, I also consider the fact that they have made an effort to improve the decibel or make a much quieter, a lower decibel, put a new lower decimal equipment. I think they are more also making it more aesthetic. But I think one of the stipulations should be that there is no complaint from the neighbors. They are all in agreement with this and they are supportive of it. And I think I would support it.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve. And I'm going to add a couple of stipulations to that, Woody. First being that if this generator fails, that the same or similar type of generator is used as a replacement. I think that's a request of one of the neighbors. I think that this is, it's worth noting that that conservation easement is part of this lot. So they're not actually putting it on the property line. They're putting it very close to a conservation area on their property, but not on the property line. I think it's shielded fairly well as well. So I don't think that there's any need for a screening plan. And Dan, did you have a secondary stipulation that you wanted in there? I'm sorry.
No, the secondary, it was more a comment in terms of exploring other alternate locations that would minimize, the variance for us.
Okay.
But, that was
Yeah.
just a comment.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we can make that as part of stipulation. So stipulation that if this is replaced, the same or similar type of generator will be installed. And with that, Woody, do you have anything further you want to add? No. Okay. With that, I'll put it to vote. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I can't see everyone on my phone. I apologize. So Barb is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm in favor as well. Jeff, are you in favor?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. Can you
Okay.
can't see something. Yes.
No. And Dan,
Sorry.
are you in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay. And Gary, are you opposed?
Yes, I'm opposed.
Okay. So that's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Woody?
Okay, so it's approved.
So it's approved. Okay. I think that is all as far as deliberations and hearings goes. Woody, do you have something short you want to deal with in other business?
Yeah, at least the approval of the October minutes, please.
Are those the Silsby minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw those. Those came through via email. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll
Jeff,
second. Yep, I'm good. I'm good.
All in favor? Gary, were you on that?
Gary's good.
Okay. I think that was unanimous. Gary, are you opposed to the minutes?
No, I said I was good.
Um,
I'm not that contrarian.
election of officers. Should we just elect Gary right now? I mean,
I'm still
Yes.
hoping that the new select people will move on the nomination for my seat on the board. So I've not heard otherwise, Woody. I don't know if you have.
I have not heard anything.
I'm sorry, what does that mean? What?
Gary's got a replacement coming in, but the selectmen have to interview and actually put them in for Gary's replacement, and then Gary's going to become a backup.
Right.
Oh, you want to be an alternate?
That's the step in the right direction.
Wait, I'm an alternate right now. Why am I still an alternate? I'm at every meeting.
Take it up with the Republicans.
I've got to
change your
I've got to get a call into Jim. We need another board member. Jim DeMark is at the RTC, and we need another board member. Board member anyway. So I don't see why Barb shouldn't become a permanent member, and we could probably.
Who are the 3 permanents on your side? You, Jeff, and
I don't know.
Evan
And Kevin.
And Kevin.
So your seats are so your seats are full.
Yeah.
On the permanent side.
Oh, right. Yeah. We need to replace Bill as an alternate.
Right. Right.
I'm not sure what's going to happen with Bill. He basically asked to be able to go to Florida for the school year and claims he'd be back. So he's kind of unavailable status.
Yeah, but if he changed his voting, then he's kind of done. Not kind of done. He's done.
He did change his registration
to Florida.
That's what I understand. Yes.
I don't know if the rules need to be a resident.
You have to
be able. I think he wanted to be able to vote, basically. But so he claims he wants to come back. He still has the house here and all that. But
You don't have to be a homeowner because you could be a renter. But do you have to be a resident? My guess is you need to be a resident, right?
You have to be a registered voter.
Oh, you need to be a registered voter or sit on a board?
Yeah.
Wow, that's okay.
That's actually the criteria. Yeah, we checked. Usual.
But right, Mike is done then. If he's registered to vote down in Florida instead.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So we got to get a replacement for him, which is fine. I hate to push this off again, but I'd like to have, the board that's going to be sitting for a little while elect its officers. Woody.
Right. So the recommendation that I put forth to the Dems is that I go to alternate status. They have their new appointee, and Dan be the members, full-time members, and I'll be the alternate. So I don't know if that lets you think about your officership any differently, Mike.
It doesn't. I mean, we've traditionally.
Who knows what's going to happen? You're right.
Right. Right. So, let's see if we can get that sorted out in December. And I'll put some pressure on the R's, and Gary, if you can put some pressure on the Democrats to try and.
Yeah, it's not that. I think maybe I'll send an email to the new first select woman. Jamie didn't respond to mine, but I think she obviously knew that it didn't matter what happened in the election. She was leaving the office. So.
Yeah.
And Gary, David Bain has already submitted the paperwork to the first selectman's office.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can follow up with the first selectman's office also, because I think it's unfair to applicants to
It's important to have seats filled. I agree with you completely.
Yep. Okay. All right.
In the meantime, I can check with Bill Hessard and confirm that he actually re-registered and what that means. And we'll go from there. And while I have you, the historic preservation thought process considerations. I understand Barb is still looking into that at least. Anything new to advise?
It's a whole political thing. I got to get all this sign off. Well, no, so Liz Geiger is really driving this, and she's trying to meet with individual members and make sure that all the boxes are checked before we put this to proposal. So I hate to kick it off all the time. I appreciate you putting it back on the agenda, but we're just really not ready to present it.
Can I ask a question? At what meeting are you presenting this or intending to present it? Like in other business?
No, it'd be a formal presentation to planning and zoning to form an official subcommittee, from what I understand.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean, where do you think it should go?
No, that's the right place.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's got to be.
It doesn't fall under us. It just started with us, and we would have representation on the committee, but it would really fall under planning and zoning.
Yeah, and I mean, it's sort of like ARB is a subcommittee of planning and zoning. It would just be the historic commission as part, or historic preservation, whatever you're going to call it, would be a subcommittee of the planning and zoning commission, which would give it some authority and some purpose. And yeah, could you have a member of the ZBA on there for
advisory says, yeah. I mean,
yeah, some guy.
Monica McNally yesterday. I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
She's trying to get Old Vaney. If Old Vaney is behind it and doesn't see any major roadblocks, then I guess we'll present this. Now that we've had the staff, we have the new first select woman, it seems like the time to present it. But we're trying to keep it simple. So.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Woody, anything else?
No, thank you very much. No.
Sorry for being
That
difficult.
wasn't so bad.
You'll be glad when I'm gone.
You're all right.
I liked it, Gary. I liked it. I like his hard stand. Thank you, Woody.
Somebody's got to get.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Hi, Jeff.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye.